No matter how long I live in Seoul or how well I think I know the city, there are always days that show me I don't know it as well as I think. When I stumble on places like this that I've been walking around for years without ever knowing it existed. It's a Monday afternoon. I'm in Changshin-dong, a neighborhood in Jongno-gu, Jongno district. Changshin-dong is on this side of the street that I'm on. Right over there is Sungin-dong. Just to the north of Dongmyo Station, which is over here at this intersection that I'm pointing at right now. And of course, on the south side of Dongmyo Station, on the southeast side, is the Dongmyo Flea Market and Dongmyo itself, the East Shrine, the shrine to a 3rd century Chinese general that I talked about in a previous video. I've come out here today to show you an interesting little part of the city that I stumbled upon quite recently. One thing interesting about this little area right here between Changshin-dong and Sungin-dong is there used to be a rock quarry here. I don't know how well you can see it, but there is a sheer cliff face right up at the end of this street on that hill there. I think it should be more obvious on the Changshin-dong side here in a minute. We're not quite there yet, but there is a good visible patch up ahead. And from what I understand, I haven't dug too deeply into this yet, but from what I understand, some of the stone from here was used to construct the old Seoul station. It wasn't the original Seoul station. The original Seoul station was made of wood, but the one that was constructed in the 1920s during the Japanese occupation, it's now an event space and I guess a museum. It was constructed with stone from this quarry. Yeah, here we go. This is the view I was waiting for. Right there. Changshin-dong and Sungin-dong are in a little pocket here. They're surrounded by these hills. This street goes through the hill in front of us through a tunnel. Our route takes us up that hill. There is a staircase right up there, and we could go up that way. I've been up that way a few times. It's not so bad, the staircase. There's a little narrow road up at the top that takes you to the main road up there, but there's not much of a view. It's not a very interesting walk up there. It's hard to see through the trees. So we are going to take an alternative route through this little neighborhood here, through Changshin-dong. There's a staircase over here that leads us up to some apartments. Changshin-dong is a bit of an older neighborhood. I've read that it started as kind of a shanty town. When the rock quarry was abandoned, people swooped in and started building little huts and shacks or whatever. And now, of course, the old shanty town is gone, but there are plenty of old buildings throughout the neighborhood. Over here on this end, we've got some newer ones. This one, for example, is quite new. Still got the banner up there advertising that it's got rooms for sale. And of course, on this big hillside here, all of these hills make for good sites for apartments. So we're surrounded by apartment complexes on the hilltops. See this elevator here? That's a great way to get up to the top of the hill. So we're walking up the steps. Interior design studio right here in this little neighborhood. Interesting spot. And now we've got the staircase. But this, unlike that red stone staircase above the tunnel, actually gives us somewhat of an interesting view. You can see the Seoul side of the cliff remains of the old quarry from here. Whew. And look at that, just beyond on the other side of the hill, you've got the Lotte World Tower on the south side of the river, poking up in the distance. Now, if you ever want to come and see this place that I'm soon to show you, there is an easier way to get to it. If you're coming from this side, there's a local bus that the Koreans call it a Maol bus, which is literally translated as village bus, but this obviously isn't a village. So I think local bus is a more appropriate translation. And also from the north side, over by Hansong University Station, there's an easier path to the site. But the first interesting little thing we're going to see is this park here. And this building right here. And this is something I just learned about now. I've walked by here recently and I didn't pay much attention to this, but this is pretty cool. Lee Soo-kwang was the guy who lived here. 1563 to 1628 is when he lived. And the house used to be located somewhere off in this direction, but the construction of Naksan Park and these Sangyong apartments here caused it to be relocated. Yeah, so I saw this when I walked by here recently, but I didn't realize it was anything historical. I thought it was just some kind of, storage space for the maintaining the grounds here or something. But yeah, it's called Biudang. It's means rain shelter, literally, and it's got an interesting story behind it. So there was a high-ranking official from the early Joseon period named Yu Guan. And he was widely praised for his sincere and uncorrupt life. And one day, somebody saw him sitting in the room of his house, holding an umbrella while the roof was leaking. And he was not worried about his leaky roof. He was worried about poor people who couldn't afford their own umbrellas to protect themselves from their own leaky roofs. And the house was eventually inherited by Lee Soo-kwang and destroyed. It was burned down during the Imjin War in the late 16th century, from 1592 to 1599, I think was when that was fought. And after the war, he rebuilt it, and he gave it the name Biudang. This is the Yodamje Library. I don't know much about the library itself, but this building once was a temple. This was the Wonggaksa Temple. It was constructed in 1983 and then abandoned in 2003. It was cut off from the south side of the hill here because of the apartment complex construction, and the site just lay abandoned for quite a while. But then the government purchased it, I think in 2012 or something, and eventually established this library. But yeah, it doesn't look like many people come through here. There are some exercise facilities up here. You've got three tiers. I don't think that means there are 3 levels of difficulty though. Oh, there's a well down here too. Huh, I didn't see that. See, there's all kinds of hidden history around here. Still hiding from me. All right, on top of the hill here, our path takes us westward toward Naksan Park. But we're not going to Naksan Park. We're going to take a fork in the road.
시간이 부족하오니 다음 신호를 기다려 주십시오.
I was following this road to Naksan Park, and Naksan Park, by the way, is on the Seoul City Wall Trail. I've walked through there with you in my first Q&A video. But anyway, I was walking up this road intending to head over toward Naksan Park, and on a whim, I turned down this street. And I noticed this little park here, down below. And I got curious about it. And then I saw this funky looking structure right here. This thing really gives abandoned theme park or abandoned campground vibes. That's the feeling I have in this area. I had it when I came through here the other day, and I have it today, even though I know it's not abandoned. And I came in here, you don't see anything indicating what it is, unless of course you look at the map. But when I saw this gate, I assumed I knew what this was, and I came in here and this verified it. You still don't see a name of what this place is, but this is obviously Hansung University, Hansung Daehakyo, and it is right there backwards in reverse Hangul, Hansung Daehakyo. The campus, small university campus, but a nice little park. Hansung University is not the hidden history I want to show you, but this was the first point of interest I stumbled upon. I knew the university was here. I had just never seen this entrance to it. But it got me curious about what's further along the street here, because I've never been down here, and yeah, it still gives abandoned campground vibes. I feel like I'm walking into a forest, soon to leave civilization behind. And then you come up on a building like this, just adding to the vibe. Oh, there are actually people walking through here today. I didn't see anyone through here when I was here before. The city wall is right above us. That is not the city wall right there, that's a retaining wall. The thing that struck me about this little pathway here is this hillside village. I cannot tell you how many times I have walked the City Wall Trail and walked above this neighborhood here and seen these rooftops. There's the university. City Wall's up there. I'm gonna head up the steps a little bit just to get a view. But no matter how many times I've seen these rooftops, I've rarely thought about coming down to wander around among them. When I have come down through this neighborhood, it's almost always been up on the other end, toward the end of the wall, this segment of the wall, near Hansung University Station. I sometimes cut down the alleys over there. And in my first Q&A video, I cut into one of the alleys while I was talking to you, answering one of the questions. But for some reason, I just have not been interested in or considered going through the alleyways of the neighborhood. And here's the trail, the City Wall Trail. And this is the view I usually get of this neighborhood, just the rooftops. You see these trees down here between the university and the neighborhood. I've never paid any attention to them, but that is where I found a little hidden piece of history the other day when I randomly turned down this street. And that is one of the unexpected benefits of the daily walks that I have been doing. I have discovered so many things I knew nothing about by randomly walking down streets I never otherwise would have walked down. You know, I sometimes change my route because walking the same route all the time gets dull. So every day I try to do something different, go in a completely different direction or take a different turn where normally I would go straight or something like that. And occasionally it leads to something really cool, like what I'm about to show you. But look at this. Now some of these buildings are quite old and in need of maintenance, but some of them are not. Some of them are old but have been maintained. They're all old, I guess. Not some of them are old, they're all old. It's just some of them are more maintained than others. I think one of the reasons I haven't taken the time to explore this neighborhood more fully is because so much of it is on the hillside with all the steps around, and some of the alleys seem disconnected. So we've got these buildings here on this side, and you've got this park down here. And this is a preschool, I guess, right here. This is the children's park. We're in Samsung-dong, and this is the Samsung-dong preschool here, Oranijib. And here is the place we have come to see. Look at this. Seems so incongruous, you know. You've got the preschool over there with the playground, and there's another little playground over here on the other side. You've got the university campus right here, and I guess there's dormitories looking down on the spot. And then this old building right here in the middle of it. Samgunbu is the three armies command, or three militaries command, or three armies bureau, however you want to call it. So I guess three armies command will suffice. And the sign here helpfully says this is in English, the Chongmudang of the three armies command, helpfully leaving out what a Chongmudang is. So just to give you a little bit of background here, the Samgunbu, the Three Armies Command, was originally established in the early Joseon dynasty. And they were responsible, kind of like a general administration for the military. Their buildings associated with the Samgumbu were located in what is now the site of the government complex Seoul in the north end of Gwanghwamun Plaza, just outside the Gwanghwamun Gate at Gyeongbok Palace. And this building is not from that era. Whatever existed during that time is long gone. And the Samgumbu itself, the Three Armies Command, was eventually reorganized and restructured until one day it just was gone, right? It eventually disappeared. The Samgumbu was reestablished in 1865. And what happened was that the last king of Korea, King Gojong, came to the throne not because he was anybody's heir, but because the previous king died without any sons, and Gojong was nominated to the throne. But he was only like 12 years old. So his father became his regent. There were other regents in the past. The term they use in this case in Korean was Daewanggun, which is often translated as internal prince, but we can translate it roughly as regent. But when you hear the Daewanggun, most people refer to this guy, Gojong's father. He's a story for another day. The main thing is that Gojong came to the throne in 1864. His father became his regent, and he wanted, the regent, the Daewanggun, wanted to strengthen the military. So as part of that process, in 1865, he reestablished the Samgunbun. He reestablished the Samgunbu and built 3 buildings on the site of the original Samgunbu, which at that time, in the middle of the 19th century, was the site of something called the Ministry of Rights. But they got rid of that and built these new buildings, and this one was one of them. The Cheongmudang was the General Affairs Hall. This was basically the headquarters building of the Samgunbu. You can think of it that way. So this re-establishment of the Samgunbu didn't last very long. You know, it was established in 1865 by the Daewanggun, and then the buildings were constructed in 1868. But then in 1880, Gojong abolished the Samgunbu and folded its responsibilities into something called the Office of State Affairs. The Cheongmudang was moved here in 1930 by the Japanese administration, and it's been here ever since. If you come out here to see this place for yourself, you don't have to come up the hill like I did. There is an entrance to the park right down here, and it's easy to get to from Hansong University Station. An easy little walk. But today we're not going to take that route. We're going to go back up the steps here to walk through the little neighborhood here some more, because it's such a cool little spot to walk through.
Well, there's a feeling in the air, just like a Friday afternoon. Yeah, you can go there if you want, though it fades too soon. So go on, let it be. If there's a feeling coming over me, seems like it's always understood this time of year. Well, I know there's a reason to change. Well, I know there's a time for us. You think about the good times and you live with all the bad, and you can feel it in the air. Feeling right this time of year. Well, there's a football in the air across the leaf-blown field. Yeah, and there's your first car on the road. feeling in the air, just like a Friday afternoon. Yeah, you can go there if you want, though it fades too soon. So go on, let it be. If there's a feeling coming over me, seems like it's always understood this time of year. Well, I know there's a reason to change, and I know there's a time for us. You think about the good times, you live with all the bad, and you can feel it in the air. Feel it in the air. Yeah, I can feel it in the air. Well, I can feel it in the air. Yeah, you can feel it in the air. Feeling right this time of year.
So down at the bottom here, this street, this is the alleyway we just came out from the hillside village. And we can follow this street, we can get to Songbukcheon, the Songbuk stream. We can get to Hansong University Station. We can walk further on to Songshin University Station, Songshin Women's University Station. And right here you can see an apartment complex is going up. I think I saw that this is going to be Lotte Castle. I believe that's what it was. And you can go on Naver Map and go back in time and look at what was here before they demolished everything. I mean, basically it was like the rest of the other side of the street, very similar. Bunch of old villas. And now we're in a typical little neighborhood market area. Plenty of little cheap restaurants down here. Cheap meaning affordable. Affordable Korean restaurants around here. Noodles, kimbap, all kinds of stuff. And of course, chicken. Hansong University Station is right up there at that end. And you can follow the stream on around. It bends to the south and meets Cheonggye Stream. And this side of the stream, this street over here, is full of little barbecue restaurants and all kinds of stuff. The Samgunbu Chongmudang and the hillside village there were the two main points I wanted to show off to you today. But it was a good walk. And I always like coming here to this area. There are some cafes around. There are some nice hanoks over off in that direction. In the back street there that I showed you in that Q&A video. There's a little street down here, a little alley with some other nice hanok buildings. And I should mention that while I was reading up on the Chongmudang, I went off on some tangents about this area, and that led me to some really interesting stories that I will share in a future video. But this area has a connection to a trot song about a very sorrowful event in the Korean War, and I hope to tell you all about it in a future video. thanks for coming along with me on this walk today to check all this stuff out, to see this little piece of hidden history in the middle of, well, Eastern downtown Seoul. Thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing, and if you are subscribed, please click the bell so that you can receive notifications about all of my videos. If you don't have that bell highlighted, you'll get personalized notifications which are based on your watch history. So if you want to see all of my videos and not miss any of them, please do click that bell. And I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.